Hey guys, it's Kelsey. I'm back with another scrapbooking process video, and this is the last prompt for Leah and my Mojo series. I'm really excited about this one because this is something I really use a lot. Today I am using a prompt to use a sketch, and today Leah is using Mercy Tiara's prompt to use something you love. So make sure you check out her video. It'll be linked in the description. But I am just going to go through how I go about picking my sketches and how I go about using them. A lot of times I see a sketch for a challenge and then I try to find photos and products to go with that sketch. If you are using it to get out of a jam though, to find some mojo, I like to go about it a different way. And first, I just want to go into why I like using sketches. It's very similar to scrap lifting, where I find a design I like that someone else did and created and go from there. But I'll tell you, a lot of the times when I scrap lift someone else, at least in the beginning, I really got hung up because I really loved what they did so much. And I would get frustrated and stuck because I wouldn't have the same products. So this is a way that uses the same idea. You're taking someone else's design and creating with it, but because it's pretty much just the bare bones, the minimal drawing of the design, you're not gonna get hung up on what products they used and how they used that design. So it really leaves it open for your own interpretation. So I knew I wanted to scrap these two photos of Marcus, which made it easy for me because I just hopped on Pinterest and I just looked for scrapbooking sketches with two photos. And just keep an open mind when you're trying to find sketches, because you might find something that has one large photo. Well, you can kind of think of this as one large photo and use that sketch that way. It doesn't have to be exactly right. But I just went through Pinterest and I found this one. You can see this sketch has 3 photos. All I'm going to do is just pretend this photo is not here, and that way I can use this sketch. So they're really versatile. You can really kind of make them what you want them to be, but it's just a jumping off point to give you a design to go for. That way you're not having to come up with everything from scratch. So this is the sketch I'm going to use. You can kind of see these photos are more on the left-hand side. And because Marcus is looking to the left, I want him looking into the page. So I'm actually going to invert this sketch. That way these photos are going to be looking towards the title. So all I did was I flipped the sketch. Now you can see it's backwards. It's basically the mirror image. And this way, when I have my photos, Marcus is looking towards the title and towards this embellishment cluster. So that's all I'm going to do, so that just so you can see another way to use them. If the sketch is oriented in a way that doesn't work for your products, you can always tweak it that way. So I am going to go through and pull in some products and we're gonna get going, but this is my sketch for today. Feel free to play along and make sure you check out Leah's video in the description afterwards. Okay, so here is the close-up version of that sketch. Again, I am going to work with it inverted, so it'll be the mirror image of this. And I did forget to mention, when you're looking through sketches, don't be stuck on the shape of their photos. As you can see, that sketch had square photos. I'm using 4x6s. It really doesn't matter. You can always tweak that. It doesn't have to be exactly what you're going for. I'm excited about this layout extra because even though you're seeing this later in the month, this is the first layout I've created with my How to Kill a Kit with Style for this month, which was a gifted collection to me from Karina through the Secret Not Secret Kit Club, and I'm just in love with this collection. This is actually the first layout I made with it, so this was the first time I was really getting to play. So I kind of also want to mention, for those of you following along with How to Kill a Kit with Style, what I decided to do starting with this collection. So I mentioned during my kit share, there's this cut apart sheet, but the back side is this really sweet tone on tone heart print. So I just decided to trim off a couple of the cut apart layers that I liked from the cut apart side and then use the remaining portion for this heart pattern. And I knew I wanted to use the kind of map print pink and blue as my background, and I really like what this navy and this pink print all look kind of together. So those are the products I'm using. That's what I decided to pull in from my collection for this first layout. And now I'm going to start on my sketch. So typically when I get a sketch, I just try to see how many layers there are, and then I'll try to pull out however many of those pattern papers that I will need to make sure all my papers go together, and then I pretty much just decide which pattern I want to be which layer and go ahead and cut them down, get them glued down. I really like this process because it comes along pretty quickly once you decide which products you're going to use and which one's going to be which layer. So you do see me gutting my background. I love all the products that came in this collection, so I'm trying to save what I can for future layouts with this kit. So in my sketch, there was a huge square layer in the background that's going to be this heart print, and because so much of that background is covered by this paper, I did just gut a huge chunk of the background paper since it'll be covered anyways. And now I'm being super frugal with this navy paper. I love this navy pattern paper that came in this collection, and I really only needed a few bits of it, so I'm really trying to be sneaky about how much of this product I'm actually using. I only want to use the amount you actually see. So I really just trimmed a small strip of that and tucked it on either side so it looks like a long rectangular piece, even though it's just two little scraps of paper. So here is pretty much the base layers from my sketch. I love this lighter blue, or kind of, I don't know if it's more of a gray, heart branding strip that was on the cut apart sheet, so I'm thinking maybe I'll try to pull that in at some point. But right now I'm just referring to my sketch, looking at what I've created so far and trying to figure out where I want to go from here. So I'm almost can't remember what I'm doing now. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and glue everything down. So again, being super frugal. This paper here is actually the same paper from the background, so I'm glad I gutted that because I ended up needing one more layer than I thought I did. So I'm just using the B side of that paper for that last layer, and again, still gutting what I can. So I have any pieces left over for another page, but I'm just going through now and gluing all my layers down, gutting as I go. So this first layer I am just getting the photos glued down to, and then I will continue kind of working my way back to the background. So I have these two navy strips here. You can see they're just two little pieces that I'm trying to trick you to think is one long piece that runs behind those layers. And then I decided I might want a little bit of that navy for one of the tags that's at the top of the page in the sketch. That way this navy creates this visual triangle. So you did see I just trimmed even more off of one of those pieces that was going to be covered by other layers anyways, and I'll turn that into a tag by the end of the layout. So that's another way I try to be sneaky when I'm frugal with my products, but just getting these two navy strips glued down, and then I'll see how much of this heart print is covered. You can see a ton of that heart print is being covered by all these other layers, so I'm just going to go ahead and gut that paper as well. I love doing this. If you're from Leah's following, watching this for the Mojo series, and you're not really familiar with me, I do this a lot, gutting products when I'm trying to stretch them, and it really is amazing how many more layouts you can get from your products when you save like this. So I understand it could be a little frustrating trying to watch me gut everything, but it really does come in handy down the line, so I just wanted to include it, at least on this layout, how I like to go about that. But now that I have every piece I can save saved, I have all my layers trimmed down, it's going to be all glued together. At the end, off camera, I will mat all of this together on like a cheap piece of black 12x12 just so it's more stable, because there is so many holes in these background layers. But yeah, I really like doing this. So last layer here, and then our framework for the sketch will be done, and we can kind of look at some of the other elements in this page. I really like the tag element, as I mentioned previously, so I'm going to figure out which layers I want to be tags. And I really like making my own tags to go with my pages, because that way your tags coordinate with any product. You can get the kind of plain tags that will go with anything, but when I have scraps of paper, I really like making tags out of them, because then your tag just perfectly matches the collection. Here are my goodies from this collection. I thought about using one of these jumbo tags as one of the tags, but I really like those jumbo tags, and I have another idea for them. So I decided to kind of go in a different direction. But until I really get going with the tags, I'm going through my ephemera for this collection to see what I might want to do embellishment wise. And I'm trying to see what my ink pad. Yes, I decided, this is another thing. I decided I wanted to ink everything in this really cool blue ink that came in my collection. And I love this color blue. I thought it was going to be like a lighter blue, but it's a really, really beautiful blue that goes with this collection. And I decided that I was going to ink all of my papers in this color. So I go through the process of trying to pull these layers apart so I can ink as cleanly as possible. I don't have an extra ink dauber. I only have 2 ink daubers, and one is for my black and one is for my brown. So you can see this is kind of how I used to ink before I was fancy and had ink daubers. I just run the ink pad along the side of the papers, and it gives the same kind of effect but in a different way, and it looks really cool. And I kind of miss doing that because that's how I used to ink my pages, so it's kind of a nostalgic technique for me. But it creates a really cool look, and I love the way this blue looks inked on everything. So I'm just trying to go through and get those edges down. I get a little messy at one point because I was determined not to take everything apart, but where I get ink on the pattern paper ends up being covered by embellishment anyway. So I'm going to cut really quick until we're back glued down so you don't have to watch this whole process. But yeah, hang on a second. I just think it looks so cool having all the inked edges. It really kind of defines the different pattern papers and makes everything cohesive. And again, I usually only have brown and black ink, so seeing it in a different color is really, really cool. I'm gonna have to get more ink pads. It's hard for me to invest in ink pads because I don't stamp a lot, but I feel like I would stamp a lot if I had more colors. So Christina's kind of inspired me to get a couple more because I love this blue that she sent me. But now that all of my edges are inked, I'm kind of revisiting the sketch. I really want to get these tags down. So again, I took the scrap of the blue, trimmed that into a tag, and then I took a scrap of the background paper, and I'm just going to use kind of a contrasting part of that paper so it doesn't blend in with the background to make the other part of my tag. And this part's really nice because, as you can see, you only need a tiny bit of paper to make it look like a big tag. If it's going to be tucked behind a layer anyways, I just took that tiny little blue strip and made it look like a tag. I just glued some of Karina's hole reinforcers on there to make it look official. I was kind of toying with the idea of using the B side of that tag so it was stripes instead of the background paper, but I really like how the blue part of the background looks against the kind of whiter portion, so I decided to go with that. But I like how those look paired up there. I think that's super cute, and that definitely helps me keep along with the sketch. I really like that element from my original inspiration, so I wanted to make sure I got that. But here you can see how using that pattern paper from the blue as my tag, it creates that visual triangle with that navy color, and I really like doing that design wise because it makes your eyes kind of dance around the page. It makes all the colors look balanced. So that's another thing I wanted to mention. And then I got so excited about this ink pad, I really wanted to use it in another way. So I decided my sketch has journaling running along the bottom portion of the page. I cut through this so you didn't have to watch me do all of it, but I did decide to use my alphabet stamps in this blue ink to do my title across the bottom. And I don't know what happened, if this is just this brand of ink pad or my stamps were probably just not clean, but I really like the effect I got because like the blues that from the alphabets, they all kind of are a different shade of blue, and I think it turned out really cool. And I don't know if that's just because some of my alphabets were still dirty or if that's just something the ink pad does, but I think it looks super, super cool. So I got my journaling down there. I love that also pulls in that color from the ink pad. I just think that style goes really good with the page, how it's all different colors. It just says Easter, after church we hung out at Mom's. This was Easter, obviously, so I just wanted to mention a little bit about where we were and what we did that day. I do need my title still. I definitely want my title where it is in the sketch. Of course, I did invert the page so it'll be on the left side of the page instead of the right. But for now, I'm trying to figure out embellishment, I'm pretty sure. I thought about pulling in some of the rub-ons that coordinate with the background. But a lot of them were travel themed, and since it was Easter and we were just at my mom's house, I really didn't want to use those. At least the ones that were in the color scheme are travel themed. And I got stuck here for a moment, so I did just decide to go ahead and cut apart the parts of the cut apart sheet that I did have saved, just so I could use them if I wanted to. I don't believe I do end up using any of the cut aparts except for that grayish blue heart border. I'll end up pulling that in, but I do end up deciding to go in with the Cocoa Vanilla floral die cuts as my embellishment instead. But I decided I'm here, I might as well cut apart these so they're ready to go whenever I do decide to use them. I thought about pulling in some of the blue and pink like heart banners, but I ended up going in a different direction. So But this is another tip for when you get stuck on your Mojo, and I mentioned it in a previous Mojo video. When you have cut apart sheets, just go ahead and cut them apart. That way they're ready to go. I find it a lot easier to use them and make decisions when they're already in their individual little pieces. So I'm thinking that blue tag might go up on top of the first photo, but I end up moving that once I kind of figure out that I'm going to use the florals instead. But I decided to get my title down. I just decided to go with this white alphabet set, and I'm just calling it Easter of 21. And I didn't have any A's, so I turned a V upside down. I really like doing that too, especially in my own books. If I was making this layout for someone else or for someone else's album, I would make sure I had an actual A. But for my own books, I don't mind kind of using my letters like that to get the title I need. So I'm almost done here. I'm just putting the year. I know it's 2021 because I scrap it chronologically, so this will be in year 2021 book. But still, I felt like I needed to fill out that space a little bit. My title wasn't as long as I anticipated it being, so I like having the date on there, just fills it out and makes it look like it's spaced how it's supposed to be. And then this is where I go in with that heart strip. This is not a part of the sketch. Well, it kind of is. I kind of took it from the black layer in the original sketch coming out from the photos where there's another tag. I decided to leave off that other tag, but I did like the additional layering, so I decided to run that heart paper down vertically along the photos, and then I have a scrap of that left over I want to pull into an embellishment cluster just so that new color and that new pattern is somewhere else on the page so that it looks like it belongs and it's not sticking out in an odd way. So now I'm pretty much done with my layers. I really just need to embellish and then I'm done. I have my journaling, I have my title, so I do kind of go off the books a little bit as far as embellishing. There's not a whole lot of embellishment noted in my sketch, so I can pretty much put it where I want it. I just know I want at least 2 clusters that are on opposite sides of the page. That again creates balance. It helps your eye kind of dance across the page, and it makes things just look, complete. So I either like doing 2 embellishment clusters on opposite sides of the page, kind of framing your photos, or I like 3 clusters around the page, creating a visual triangle. And either one of those options really help your eyes move across the page and make it look. Sometimes if you have too much embellishment on one side, your layout can look a little unbalanced and too heavy on one side and too plain on the other, which sometimes that's the design you're going for. But for this kind of layout, I really wanted my clusters to look balanced. So I decided just to pull in a couple florals from my kit and layer them up. And then you can just see I'm trying to figure out how much of this heart branding strip I want showing. I ended up cutting it down to 4 hearts. I really wanted an odd number of hearts because that's another design principle. I really like doing odd numbers, just seem more pleasing to the eye. But 3 hearts worth was too short and 5 hearts was too long, so I'm doing 4. It's fine. And I am going to pop up that part of the branding strip on some foam, just to add a little bit of dimension. Other than the title that's on some foam, everything's very flat on this page, so I always like to include some dimension and some different textures to keep some interest on the layout. So I'm going to go ahead and get these floral clusters down. The corally looking floral in the bottom right hand cluster I will also pop up on some foam, just so there's a little bit of dimension there. And then I think I will pull in one more kind of finishing touch. Once I'm done playing with my kit that I'm working with or my products that I'm working with and I get to the end of the page, I really like going to my stash and pulling out something that's a different texture that can be a little finishing touch, whether that be enamel dots, Nuvo drops, wood veneer, something like that. Even sprinkling with inks or mists can really be a nice finishing touch to add a different kind of texture. So I'll do that too once I get all my layers down. I've kind of laid out, but I like where I had everything, so it's just going back and gluing it all back down. And there you can see on that blue paper where I smudged the ink because I was not being very neat when I was inking all the edges. This floral cluster covers that, so that works out well. So getting everything down, and I'm just going to cut to where the clusters are down and we can move on. All right, and then for this finishing touch, I thought about doing enamel dots, which I thought would have been super cute, But I noticed when I did the unboxing of this kit, there is a wood veneer element that Christina had included, and I really liked how the wood veneer looked on these products. So I decided instead of doing enamel dots or Nuvo drops, I would pull in some wood veneer. So I'm just going through all my wood veneer stash right now and just pulling in what I think will work. I have a bunch of wood veneer, like wood veneer, which I always forget about and don't use because I never want to fish through them all to find the words I want to use, but I'm just going through them now. I think it's a really sweet layout to try and use them on. And then I'm also going through and digging out a couple more heartwood veneer, and I'm going to have to order some more of those from Christina soon because I'm almost through all of my heartwood veneer. But I'm just trying to pull out a couple things that I can have in either cluster. I think this raw wood veneer looks really nice with these products, but it also kind of pulls in the woodsy tones of my photos. We're outside in my mom's backyard here, and there's woods and a lake and, you know, natural colors. So I really like pulling that element out of the photos and having it through my embellishment with the raw wood. So I'm just going to find which ones I want to use where and get those glued down, and that will be my finishing touch. So this is pretty much this layout. I really love using sketches. I feel like I've used them a lot recently, but they're always a good way to kind of get your mojo going. I feel like as scrapbookers, at least when I first started, I really felt a lot of pressure to make all my pages super different, and sometimes I felt like I was cheating if I was using someone else's design. I really put pressure on myself to come up with new original ideas every single layout, and that was another reason I would just get stuck because I have all these resources of other people's designs and sketches and layouts they put out there to inspire people and for you to use, and I was just not using them, feeling like that was cheating. And then I realized that's ridiculous. They're there to inspire you and to help you create. So yeah, once I got over that, it really changed the game as far as getting me going. And that was another reason, like when I first started, I would get frustrated I didn't have my own style. And I realized that I kind of created my own style by copying other people, copying sketches and other layouts, and I would realize what it is that I like to do and what it is that I like the look of. And eventually you pull all these different elements that you like doing that you've picked up from wherever, and that creates your style. So without, you know, watching Mercy TR for so long and picking up on things she liked to do, I would have never created my own style. So that's another thing I wanted to throw out there. I don't want anyone to ever feel like you're cheating by using sketches or scrap lifts or anything like that, because that's what it's there for. It's there to inspire you. As long as you're not claiming that design as your own and submitting it for challenges or magazines and then claiming that you made the original design. If it's for your own book and it's to get a page made that you love, do it. Do it. It's what it's there for. I always am very flattered when people scrap lift me. So feel free. Here are the close-ups. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you check out Leah's video. This is the last video in our Mojo series as far as creating a layout, but we will have a wrap-up video next Wednesday, so we'll see you then. Bye.